Hi, everyone. It's Kendra Devlin, and I am back for another personal story on all the breadcrumbs that God has showed me that has brought me straight to the ministry that He has called me to as a Christian life coach, author, speaker, all those different things. But I help Christians release past wounds so they can turn their testimony into their ministry, answer the call of the gifts that God has given them. Also, discipleship within churches and online ministry as God has called me to be online, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all those different things, to share my stories and to be able to teach and to help you all get closer to God and do His will. So I'm excited about this particular one because this story is when God called me out of retail. For like over 13 years, I have been managing in retail, and I love to be around people, helping them, feel great about themselves, from just the physical standpoint of, buying the clothes and feeling good. They're about to go somewhere, whatever. I just always love to have those interactions with people and talk with them. And a lot of times on a spiritual level. So that was just my life for like 13 years. I love retail and I love people. And so, even then I was doing training and development as a manager, co-manager, and store manager. So it is fitting that I'm doing the coaching now. But when God told me, to leave retail, this was in my late 20s. What was it, 2017, somewhere between like 2017 and 2018. So I written my first book in 2016. And then within the next year and a half was when, 2018 or something like that, was when God was calling me out of retail. And so, I was coming from, when God was telling me this, one night before I was on vacation. And so I was going back to work, and one night God was like, "You're leaving retail." And I'm thinking, y'all know when you're on vacation and you feel like you need a vacation for your vacation, and you feel like, well, I don't want to go back to work. When you have like those kind of moments, it's like, that's not God, and that's me. That's me saying, you don't want to wake up, you don't want to go to work tomorrow. Like that, I'm thinking that's me saying that. And so I kind of like brush it off. And then 2 weeks later, late in the midnight hour, God is saying, "You're leaving retail." And I'm like, okay, God, like I'm leaving retail. And I knew like I had already given myself like, after writing my first book and was completing my second book, I knew that God was going to call me out of retail, but my timeline was like 10 years. And then I was like, well, maybe like 5, because at the time previously I wanted to, be a district manager, regional manager, be as high as I possibly could go in the retail industry. But then as I started writing the book and coming out of alcoholism and all of that, then that's when, God was shifting, where He was calling me to be. And when He told me that, I'm thinking, initially, I'm like, okay, well, 10 years to 5 years. And He tells me that, and I'm like, okay, God, like, now, today, the next 6 months, like, what does that mean? And so in my mind, it was like, all right, I need to start making plans and preparation, which everything I do is all about preparation. I need to make preparations for this move and me coming out of retail. And so initially I was like, okay, well, I can do this. And within the next 6 months, like I need to be pulling myself out. I need to be doing this, moving around here. And even when I told my store manager, like, I'm not going to be, in retail anymore. And she's like, we were just about to give you this store. And I was like, I'm sorry. But God is calling me to something different, and He's calling me much quicker than I had expected. So during that time, initially, I'm thinking it was my own thought, but it wasn't. And God and the Holy Spirit had to like reiterate, hey, like, you're leaving retail, like your time here is over. You've done what you could. You've talked to people. You've even helped people. You've even ministered to people here. But now I need you to train and develop my own people. Like now you're shifting. And I didn't really know what that really meant. I had no idea. But I knew that God needed me to shift, and I'm all about doing things in the right season as God is calling me to, because I ain't trying to spoil nothing. I ain't trying to spoil no harvest. I need a harvest. Like, no, I'm going to do, what God's telling me to do. Even if I give some pushback initially, like I'm going to quickly come back into my right mind to do what God has called me to. But that was a moment where I was taken back, but it was just the same as when I was writing my first book. Like, well, of course, all right, God, I don't know what this looks like, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. This is what you called me to do. I've seen your hand move in so many different ways. I don't know what this is going to look like, but I know I need to move. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. And that was another piece of that breadcrumb of, are you going to have faith and do what I ask you to do? Or are you going to do things your way? Like, are you going to move when I ask you to move? Or are you going to just say no? Like, the plan is retail. And God is like, no, that's not what I said. And so let me know for yourself if you have had those moments where God is calling you, whether it's been full-time ministry, to do it part-time, to shift careers, to shift ministries. Like, tell me in the comment section what God has shifted for you, and how you responded, and how you're continuing to respond. And if you're going through that now, just remember that God is faithful, and whatever He is calling you to do, it's going to work out. It's going to be looking different. It's going to have its flips, turns. It's going to have all these different things that you don't expect, because a lot of times we think when we get this divine word that it's not going to be these natural things that happen, and even spiritual warfare happens within the natural. So it's like we think like, oh, well, God said this, I'm going to make $1 million tomorrow, and I'm going to be doing this, and people are going to know me for evangelizing. And like, no, there's work to be done. And so maybe that's something else that people need to hear. There's work to be done. You get something from the Holy Spirit, from God, but you have to actually prepare and do the work as He's calling you into it and pushing you to it. So let me know in the comment section. And if you have not been doing what God's calling you to do, go ahead and do it today, because tomorrow is too late to be great.